Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America, we bring the resource to you. The DU Podcast with your host, Chris Jennings.
I've got Dr. Mike Brazier here, and recently, well, I say recently, it's been a couple years now, Mike wrote a Understanding Waterfowl column for Ducks Unlimited magazine called Blue-Winged Ducks. And I remember when this column kind of came through routing, I immediately, as along with I'm sure other people did, immediately thought about blue-winged teal only, and never even dawned on me that the category of blue-winged ducks encompasses 7 different worldwide species, but in North America you've got shovelers, blue wings, and cinnamon teal. The reality is people don't even think about that, but you kind of brought up the point that there's some new information regarding the blue-winged ducks.
But there is a little bit of new information. I think it came out a little bit last year, and it kind of relates to this whole idea of relatedness, phylogenetic relatedness of species, ornithologists and biologists in general have a system of classifying organisms, would be plant and animals, and they classify those based on their relatedness one to another. And you have, I don't want to get too deep into our science backgrounds, but you have genus and species as the most basic level of the scientific names, and so. Though organisms are classified based on their relatedness into these taxonomic levels of classification, and not surprisingly, the blue-winged ducks are closely related. And previously, I guess I should back up and say there are several recognized authorities for sort of setting out these taxonomic classifications. And for birds, it is at least in North America, it's the American Ornithological Union. I think it's now the American Ornithologist Society. So they have this checklist of birds, and they'll entertain proposals to change the scientific nomenclature of certain species. And so a couple years ago, there was a proposal to change the genus name for some of these blue-winged ducks. They were previously in the same genus as mallards and pintails and widgeon, and that was the Anis genus. And more recently here, though, the proposal was made to. There's probably a longer history here that I don't fully understand. A lot of this can probably go back hundreds of years, not hundreds of years, but decades. About all these proposals and alternative classifications. But a couple years ago, it was sort of made official by this authority that the blue-winged ducks, to be general here, were classified in a new genus, and that is Spatula. Spatula, and that's it's
makes sense. For
reminiscent
the spoonbill
of the shape of that bill, and so we have the shoveler is retained its specific name, and the blue-winged teal did as well, and the cinnamon teal. But now they all have the genus of Spatula, and so that reflects some new understanding of their relatedness. A lot of it's informed by genetic analysis and all that kind of stuff right now. So that was sort of some neat information that came out, and along the way through over the years, some people had proposed that and had argued for that, and then finally there emerged enough scientific evidence to convince the powers that be, if you will, to rename scientifically those birds. Interestingly, the same applied for gadwall and widgeon. Their scientific name, their genus, was changed from Anis to Mareca. So yeah, a little bit of detailed
cool
phylogenetic information there for those that care.
Be the first to know when ducks are on the move. Sign up for DU's waterfowl migration email alerts and receive ongoing in-depth updates on the latest habitat conditions, weather changes, and hunting reports for your flyway. Visit ducks.org/migration alerts.
Now, regarding, just a kind of quick question for me and kind of give the listeners a little bit of understanding. So you've got your blue wings, your northern shovelers and your cinnamon teal. Now, they're all prairie breeding birds, correct?
Well, northern shovelers and blue-winged teal definitely are.
Okay.
They are. Northern shovelers, let me say it like this. They will nest in the prairies. They definitely do nest in the prairies. Blue-winged teal are a bit more opportunistic of those three. Northern shovelers, and by opportunistic, I mean they will, if they find suitable nesting conditions in Texas, northern Texas, they'll nest there. And some years there's reports of substantial numbers of blue-winged teals nesting in Louisiana, coastal Louisiana and coastal Texas. But their densities are definitely greatest in the prairies.
Yeah.
Their northern extent is confined to the prairies. Maybe a little bit into the southern boreal forest, but by and large they're restricted to the prairies. Now, northern shovelers predominantly nest in the prairies, but they will extend up into Alaska as well. They're the most widely distributed across North America. Cinnamon teal are a bit different. They rarely get into the prairies. They are more of an Intermountain West and a California Central Valley bird, so you're not likely to see those east of the Rockies.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rare occurrence for you to make that observation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I've heard of a couple of guys, harvesting cinnamons in Texas.
And it's always
very rare, but usually
always a big
everything
thing.
else is.
And interestingly, this time of year, this is we're kind of in the fall here, September, October, when these blue-winged teal, as well as cinnamon teal, are still in their basic plumage. They've not really put on their alternate plumage yet. It's virtually impossible to tell a blue-winged teal from a cinnamon teal. And even once in females, regardless of what time of year it is, their plumage is so similar, it's virtually impossible to tell if you're looking at a female blue-winged teal or a female cinnamon teal. The best indicator is whether you're west of the Rockies or east of the Rockies. And I think there are some minor differences based on measurement of some very detailed feather characteristics.
Yeah, I noticed that on my wing survey. It came back blue wing / cinnamon because it is, almost impossible.
Which is really interesting that their wings are so similar, yet I don't think their body plumage, at least on the males, could be more different.
Yeah.
You bright red cinnamon plumage on the males, male cinnamon, and blue wings are just totally not. So.
Well, cool.
It's pretty fascinating how that turns out to be the case there for those.
Absolutely. All fascinating information. And now everyone knows that we've had a slight change in the genus.
The nomenclature, that's right.
The nomenclature has changed. And, as far as, the average duck hunter goes, you can sit back and you can, refer to the Spatula genus. Spatula is just spatula.
It is pretty
I was trying to make
interesting.
it fancy.
Well, when you go across, it's like when you go across the country, there will be people that pronounce all these words so differently. Scientific name, and whenever I hear somebody pronouncing a scientific name differently than the way I pronounce it, I'm like, well, did I learn that incorrectly, or did they learn it incorrectly, or so. There's all sorts of variation in the pronunciation. I don't know what's correct or not.
I'll tell you what I know is correct is spoonbill and Hollywood.
You can't go wrong with that.
That's right. All right, Mike, I appreciate the update. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the DU Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit www.ducks.org/DU Podcast for resources based on today's topics, as well as access to more episodes. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.